Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for the Round 8 review, where we're backing up 2 good weeks with another good week. So I think the last couple of weeks I was around 500th overall for the round, 140th this week for the round, which is even better. Moved up over 700 ranks to go from just inside the top 1K to well and truly inside it, with a season rank now of 220, which is very nice. So super happy with that. As you can imagine, good spot to be in at this time of year, even though I'm out of boosts, low on trades, but at least I'm getting points on the board, and hopefully I can stack those up and give me a little bit of buffer for the run home when some of the teams that are positioned a little bit better for mine to come home do. But I mean, the fact that I've moved up so many ranks in just a few weeks shows that they're probably still close, and if you get things right, a lot can move quite quickly. So let's jump into it, have a look at the team, talk about the trades, what happened, all that good stuff, and we'll go from there. So firstly, just to recap on trades from last week, I got rid of Ridley, which was super fortunate, just given that he got concussed on, like a 20, lost a bunch of money. So to get out of that pick before it happened was really nice. I moved him to Sinclair, who didn't go big or by any means, but yeah, just to avoid that poor score was massive. And then I traded out Fergus Green, who got substituted tactically, also had a poor score, lost a bit of money, and moved him on to Cincotta, who scored a 70, made like 78k this week. Yeah, Green lost 20. So both of those pretty big for me, both in terms of points on field and getting out of money, which was nice. And then trading out Ashcroft early definitely paid dividends this week after hurting a bit last week. So yeah, that was pretty good too, just thinking about past trades. All right, so let's talk about the team, where it's at. We'll talk through some trade options, ins and outs and all that type of stuff, captain, vice captain, and we'll go from there. Just get rid of this taskbar down the bottom, all the thumbnail images getting prepared. And it was a tough week this week because anytime you score this big, you've got lots of players that are going to go big. So I think I had like 5 or 6 I wanted to call out, and you're having guys like Kelly and Petrarca that are putting up 120 pluses that you just can't fit in. But in defense, so Dacos got tagged for a 2nd week in a row. Obviously not worried about trading him or anything like that. GWS this week, could they tag him as well? Maybe. They haven't really been tagging so far, but it seems to be working for teams to at least put someone to Dacos, so that could continue, but I don't see any point in trading out of him. Stewart and Sinclair just both missed a ton. I think, yeah, they both looked reasonable. Sinclair and Steele was originally the other option I was looking at. So originally Hopper to Steele, I think, is what I discussed in last week's video. But when I thought about it, Hopper against West Coast, much more likely to beat his 90 break even than Ridley was to even get close, given that he was still playing key position defense with Laverde out. So that's why I ended up moving on Ridley, just because I thought scoring prospects would be worse, but the concussion obviously hurts that even more. But yeah, I thought both these guys looked good. Stewart's got the good buy. Sinclair, part of the reason why I wanted him is because I'm quite light on that first buy. And it is actually something we should talk about, buys and buy planning, because it should start coming into your trade plans now. For example, I was thinking about, could I go with cheap Doherty? But if I chuck on this last buy, I'm missing most of my premiums from this round. I think I've got like 9 out because all the GWS boys, both the North ones as well. So yeah, pretty bad. Speaking of the North boys, Zeeble and Sheasel. I mean, Zeeble was a man on a mission this game. He had something like 4 marks and 4 kicks in the first 3 minutes or something like that. He was just racking up points. He was over 60, 70 dream team, it feels like, at quarter time, and about 40, 50 points in SuperCoach as well, and just kept going from there. I think the nice thing was, even though he did get a lot of junk in the back line, and that was definitely the case, it felt like he was taking the majority of kick-ins, which he hasn't always done. And he was doing some defensive stuff as well, like nice tackles when the ball hit the ground. He was quite efficient, only had, I think, a couple of poor kicks. So yeah, he's been an awesome pickup. He's now up nearly 200k, 190k, and averaging 111, which is huge for someone that we paid at 350 for. And Sheasel was right up there in the value stakes. I mean, he's made 253k, and he's averaging 103 for someone that we paid just under 200k for. So these have been huge. And really helps someone like me that's been aggressive with trades, and you kind of banking on some of these value guys being keepers throughout the year. So lovely from both of them. Constable can't get a game, even with Weller out, didn't come back in. Long looked like he copped a little bit of a niggle or whatever, but Atkins is in that side over him at the moment, and he's probably someone that we should talk about. Roy Atkinson. I know people are going to talk about him as a trade-in option this week. He's got a negative 42 break even. He had an 89 and then a 68 in those two games, and plays West Coast this week, which is obviously a soft matchup. Kind of playing wing and rotating a little bit into half back. So one we can talk about in a little bit. But yeah, Constable can't get a game, which is annoying. Sincotta has been great. I think everyone jumped on him last week, and if you didn't, he's probably still the best downgrade option this week. If for whatever reason you didn't jump on him, so yeah, negative 57 break even. He looks like an on-field option most weeks at the moment. Against the Dogs, probably going to be a little bit tougher to score on, but I don't think many people have got options other than just to field him. And then Cowan, yeah, like not great. Was it Newman that might have got a suspension for this game? I swear there was someone that was like, it was either injury or like they did something. Lewis Young, but that was tactical sub. I thought it was Newman that did like tripped or something. Is there any tool? No. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Always hoping for some way to get Cowan back in the side. I just don't think it's happening. He's well and truly behind Sincotta, and even guys like Kemp that were brought in, I think have done more, despite not being amazing, have done more than what Cowan has done. So yeah, and I flicked on it, but yeah, fantasy team's going all right as well for those that are asking. 381 now, moved up a fair few spots in that this week as well, despite bringing in Steele, who wasn't any good. All right, moving on to who else is worth talking about defense quickly? So Sicily, he had another poor game. He's been scoring poor against some of these like easy beat sides. I think this is just part of their tanking. You know, like yeah. That's all I can think of is because he's playing so far below what we saw last year and what his output looks like. I just feel like that he knows in those games where things are tight, like just has to score poor. But anyway. All right, in the midfield, the first four here, I'm really happy with Bont, Petrarca, Kelly, and Green. I probably don't need to say too much about Bont. Most that watch this channel, I'm sure, have Bont. Petrarca was the interesting one, another 122. So look, he's kind of like my budget Clary option until I can bring in Clary, and he's been keeping up with him. So that's all I can hope for, really. Picking him up into the soft fixtures where I thought that run would be good, and it has continued to be good. Interested in what his CBAs look like, 54%. He might still be tracking towards forward DPP eligibility, which is kind of wild. It seems like they have been resting him forward in some of these easier games. Against the Hawks this week should be another chance to go big there as well. To be honest, if that was an early enough game and I had good captain options behind it, this is the type of matchup I'd probably be interested in putting a Petrarca VC on. All right, yeah, Kelly and Green both scored really well. The one that suffered was Cogs. Kind of owning all three of them is weird on any given week, but the averages are now, 110, 112, and 100 between the three of them, and that's perfectly fine, especially given how cheap they were respectively for their positions. Collingwood matchup this week is scary because I don't think any of them will score particularly that well in it, but enjoy it while it lasts. Day had a bit of a disappointing week. He was on track for a ton and then just ended up with just the 84. But yeah, I mean, given the price paid for him, I'm not unhappy with Day whatsoever. Just kind of fitting in as that, last D6 kind of option at the moment. And then we've got Goulden, who was great. I mean, yeah, we've seen kind of the duality of him in the last 2 weeks. We had, was it 2 or 3 weeks? We had the poor game. Oh, the 47. There you go. It was 2 weeks ago now. Kind of blocked that out. And then 120 and 156 these last 2 weeks, which is great to see. And he actually has gone back up on money again now. 27K, break even of 3. He's going to go up a bunch more. And they've got soft matchups in Freo and North, which is pretty cool, as well as that good first buy. And if you've been looking at first buy, there's not too many teams that are in here that, players that you'll have. So, yep. Hopper, yep. So as expected, kind of went big on West Coast, just given how leaky they've been to midfielders, and with the weather projected to be bad, great score. Break even at 77. I actually think he may struggle or even fail to meet that this week against Geelong. But yeah, happy to hold him at the moment, just given where his break-even's at and he's scoring. And he also does have a last buy. So it is the type of play that if you could carry as your last upgrade into buys, then that works out pretty well. Warple is one that will definitely be looking to move on this week. So just the 68, break-even now 85. Have a quick look at exactly what his numbers were from a CBA perspective. I don't think his fantasy score was too bad. 59%. So it has gone down a little bit these last 2 weeks since Day's been back in. And that's, Day's CBAs are building there as well. Newcomb, they gave him more time in there. But yeah, I was hoping against the Freo matchup that there might be another big score, even if it was playing more half forward, and that just wasn't the case. Melbourne West Coast next two. I mean, if you've got other bigger problems and you have to hold him in the next two, it's probably okay. But I think he's made 100 and what 17k, 16k. Yeah, he's about ready to move on for me. And then I had Hollands on the bench, who I looped and then didn't take his score. So I took, obviously, Sincotters and benched Hollands. So he's probably about tapped out, 53 break even. His average is 60. Dogs are, a tougher matchup for mid. So probably the type of matchup I'll avoid. And if I can move on Hollands this week, I will. Otherwise, holding him's not the end of the world by any means whatsoever. He's, 130k, which has been all right. Had some serviceable on-field scores, not too bad at all. Davey came back and played, and I thought he was all right early from the little bits that I saw, and then disappeared in the second half, which has kind of been the MO for him so far this year. It needs to get better at running out games. Made just the $100 in the end. It must be his break even by like 1 or 2 points. Break even at 45 is pretty scary because, that's about where his average is, but I don't think he scored that since round 3. Oh, there you go. I mean, I guess he would have beaten it there. What is it? Yeah, 40. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, so it would have matched it in round 4, but he hasn't beaten it since round 3. So, yeah, I mean, he's at least a warm body, although there's a chance he doesn't play this week, given Menzies was the sub, came on, looked okay. So, yeah, there's a chance Davey doesn't play again this week. And Waller was good. But, yeah, he could be the sub as well, which would be pretty annoying. Yeah, and then Johnson, he's had 1 week suspension, got another one to go. Other midfield rookies, I guess like Ashcroft's going to be the one that people are talking about, just given that he backed up that massive 103 with just the 37. As a result, because he has got that 107 in the system, his break-even 71 isn't that bad. And given Essendon does seem to concede points to mids, I think he is someone that you could likely hold another week. Especially if you've got bigger problems. Wait and see how he does against Essendon and whether or not he resets his break-even or could reset his break-even, or whether you need to move him on. One thing I've noticed Ashcroft really likes doing is running for the short, like kind of 15-meter angled kick, either in defense or just kind of just outside the defensive 50. Seemed to be kind of well held this week in terms of ability to run and get those. And then on top of that, I thought in the midfield, he got beaten up by some of those bigger bodies. Just, harder environment for him to win the ball and have some of his skills shine through. It just like really good midfielders in this week, and I think that did hurt him a little bit. So against Essendon, where the bodies aren't as big, and I have a feeling we're more likely to concede those chip kicks, I think Ashcroft could score pretty well this week. But from me, who traded him 3 weeks ago now, I'm obviously not against trading him if he's your biggest problem, or you don't really have anyone else to trade out of. But if you've got like your Warples and stuff like that, they're fine to move on to. In the ruck, so English was good again. I think his fantasy score was over 150, but yeah, just the 124. Bont took all the scaling in this one, but still a good captaincy score. I kind of missed on the wrong one there, but actually I had a lot of big scores I could have gone for. Kind of 118 and a 129, not that great, or 124, not that great when you consider I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scores or something like that bigger than either of those. Against Carlton this week, who they got Pitton at. I mean, yeah, he should be okay again as another option. And then Marshall's the interesting one this week. So for those who didn't watch the game in the fourth quarter, early fourth, I want to say, he rolled his ankle, came off, went down to the rooms. And when he came off, he was limping, hobbling type thing, struggling to get off. Went down to the rooms, had it looked at for a while, came back up to the bench with it, I think, retaped and ready to go, that ankle kind of foot area. And then for whatever reason, he was kind of warming up, looking like he was going to go on. And then the next time they cut to him, he had his shoe back off and they were icing it. So I don't know if it was just because the game would kind of gotten away from North at that point in time and they're happy just to rest him, or if, there's something more serious going on. But he is a wait and see this week for what we do with Marshall. For those that have someone like a Ryan, I guess you could always emergency Ryan on Friday night, and if, Marshall gets withdrawn, then you trade Marshall out to whoever. I don't know, and you could move Madden in there. It's possible, but yeah. So wait and see what happens with Marshall, because he's someone that could be a laid out this week for sure, or under a cloud. And I think I mean, we'll go into trade options later because I'm going to play around with what I can do with it. But I think the obvious one is to go to, where are you? Max gone. So you make what, 50-ish K on that. Actually, it's more than that. Wow. 58K on that, and get a good ruck in Gorn. So I think that'd be the really handy downgrade option. If you had Gorn already, because you'd gone like Grundy gone last week, I think this is just the week that you get English. He's lost more money. He's at 654K, so go after him. And then the forwards, I mean, Taranto continues to be good. Maybe a little bit of a disappointing score just given the opposition. Dunkley closed the gap to being the #1 forward this year. He was well off the pace, but definitely closed up now and just looked really good on the weekend. Plays Essendon this week, who he's got a pretty good track record against, so I wouldn't be surprised if he backed that up again. Dunkley has Taranto has the Cats on Friday night. Much tougher matchup. Probably not looking at a vice captain or anything like that this week. What's his track record like against them? Not great, not bad. Rosie started this game slow, but was all right. His teammate Butters was really good. And for those that, took the punt on him 1-2 weeks ago, I think finally got the reward you deserved because he's been playing better than what these scores have kind of been, kind of these mid-90s. So a nice 125 this week. And yeah, love watching Butters play. Big fan. Yeah, Cogs, I mentioned, kind of down game, the one that suffered of these. I don't think he played particularly badly, just had a few clangers and wasn't around the ball as much late when some of the scaling was up for grabs in that close game. Chandler had a poorer down game for sure, just the 57. Started out okay, actually, but then faded a bit in this one. I think the good news is he's back at the MCG playing the Hawks this week. And if you look at Chandler's big scores, 93, 90, 85, 104, these top 4 scores of him have all been at the MCG. Kind of disregard opposition, but yeah, MCG. So Hawks, soft matchup for forwards, like second easiest score on at the MCG. I think Chandler is a hold this week and another safe field option, especially with the 42 break even. Most teams are going to have bigger problems than Chandler for sure. So yeah, I think he's a pretty easy on-field option. Now, Samson Ryan was the other one that I loopholed just in case something went wrong, but playing against West Coast and him likely being the #1 Ruck for Soldo out, I thought we were in for a pretty good score. I'm going to thank my lucky stars anytime we get a ton. And yes, this is like just rewarded for taking him over JVR, just because it was the better pick, even though you had to pay up for it. Very pleased that it's paired. I don't know why I'm so emotionally invested in this. I have JVR in my fantasy side, so I actually need him to do good there. And it's obviously hurt by JVR getting suspended for 2 weeks, which we'll talk about. I think they'll challenge. I'm not sure if it'll be upheld or not. It's because it's an interesting case. There's not too much precedent to go on. But back to Ryan. Break even now is -4, which is really nice. I actually think the Cats are a good chance of stunting that this week, even though Ryan should continue to get ruck time in this one. But yeah. So he's now up 179K. What did we pick him up at 166K or something like that? So haven't got the full amount because 156K. So there was 33K missed there. But I mean, you saw some of these other guys I'm looking at, like Hollands. Who else was I looking at before? Like Davey Gowan. Yeah, I mean, Ryan is right up there now with making more money than all these guys, which is really handy. And with a -4 break even, he's going to go up again this week. I think Soldo was 1 to 2 and Nank is 2 to 3 or something like that as well. So realistically, he's probably only got a couple more games. I mean, I'd love for him to still be #1 ruck against Teakle in round 11. But yeah, he's probably only got a few more games, couple more games maybe before he caps out and we have to move him on. But he's been absolute blessing, old Ryan. And then Mitchell had an okay game, the 54 here. So made a little bit more money. His break-even's 24, so still got some more to make as well, which is nice. And at least he's got that DPP and he's a warm body at the moment. Although I must say it looked like, just based on how this game went, and I didn't get to watch all of it because I was watching the GWS Bulldogs game more closely. Him and Weddle, I'm not sure if both of them hold their spots, especially with Scrimshaw in there as well. Anyway, I'm not really sure. Got Bramble that's coming back in too. So, yeah. Okay, so trade options this week. Let's talk about it. There's tons of good players to target this week. So I guess let's talk about defense and forwards quickly. The one from last week that people jumped on that did well was Powell. He's now at 530k, so I'm not sure if he's as attractive as what he was. Does have the good buy, still has a low break even, has West Coast this week. But, you know, with Weller out and how he started, I would have thought he'd do better than this 104, but it was still a decent score. He's a cheap option you could look at. Doherty is the interesting one, and I did want to check his CBA numbers because I have a feeling he had a fair few just based on eye tests. Doherty, 25. Okay, less than what I thought. He was up around the ball a lot. I think he was second best scorer for this game for the Blues, which won't be the case. But look, since he's been back, 106, 111. He is now at 509,000. So I'm guessing this is going to be bottom priced. I can't take Doherty because of my final buy situation, and that's where buys start to come into play. You know, I've already got Sheasel, Zeeble, both these Blues up here. And look, yes, I could move Zeeble and Sheasel forward, but that's not going to work with my forward line, which already has 3 in there that are going to miss. So, Doherty, I looked at Doherty, I'm like, you know, I probably can't take him even at this 510 price. So Sinclair's going to be the one for me. And then Sicily is one that people will probably talk about a little bit as well, just because he keeps getting cheaper and cheaper. His break even is still bad. Melbourne haven't been giving up a ton of points to defense. So I still would not be looking at Sicily personally anyway. And I think, is he the round 14 buy? If you've got, you know, Will Day as well and Dacos, then you've already got 2 more in that. Dawson's in that buy as well. So you've got Dacos, Dawson, Day, and then you probably can't throw in Sicily. So buy round considerations definitely start coming into play at this point. For defenders, we talked about Atkins, I guess, as the downgrade option, or Weddle will be the other one, 130k if he holds his spot. That's one that you could look at. Negative 18 break even. Had a pretty poor first game of 38, but a 54 now. So, I guess that'd be it. And then, so we'll go to midfielders last because I think that's where the action is this week. And it's also where people have got Warple and Ashcroft to trade out. So that's probably where they're looking to upgrade anyway. In the forwards, so if you don't have Goulden, I guess you could still jump back on Goulden at 490k price point. Outside of that, like, I'm not sure if there's really anyone worth talking about as a forward option. Let's have a look through around average just in case. I mean, Tom Hawkins, you're not going. These are too expensive. Green was out. And like, no. Darcy Cameron must be back some point soon. Saligo had another good game. Stringer, no. No, I don't think so. I mean, Bailey Smith is the one that found a little bit of form, and he's still cheap, 497k. So if you wanted to take a punt on him, I guess that'd be the risky one. But yeah, I just don't know many people that are looking for forward options. And once again, like with the forwards we already have, he's also got this last round bye with, you know, the rest of the dog. So if you've got Rosie, Taranto, Cogs, and then you're throwing in Baslenka or something like that as well, you're in for a rough time. So yeah, And then Rucks, we already spoke about. If you got Marshall, I think get Grundy. If you don't, if you've already got English, if you don't have English, you probably need to get English. Although I guess if you had Darcy and Marshall, you could just go to Gorn. It would be fine. You just continue to death ride English. For those that have Darcy, I mean, he played anyway. He had a poorer score this week, but I think you just continue to hold. Like he plays through injury sometimes. It happens. And also, we saw that Meek was very restrictive on English last week. English had his worst score for the year at 99 last week. 90, or was even lower than that. And everything else was 130 before that, and then another 124. So yeah, I just wouldn't worry about it. Okay, and then the mids. This is where all the action is this week for sure. There's so many players that are interesting to talk about here. So Clayton Oliver, I think, is one we could definitely look at. And for me as well, this is his lowest price of the year so far. He's now down 48,000 or so to 652. Has Hawks this week, break even of 99. So this should definitely be the bottom. He should beat this out from here. Port the week after, which he does an okay track record with, and then Freo hasn't been going well. So like this is nice. Let's just have a quick look at my team. I don't have many people in that middle buy, I believe, other than, when I say middle, the round 14 buy, other than Petrarca. Warple will be gone by then. I'm probably trading him out this week, and Day's going down back, I presume. So I really don't have people in that middle buy. So I'd be in the market for Oliver this week, potentially. I didn't talk about Dawson down back as an upgrade option for those who don't have him. Still too much. Like, you can get Oliver for 2k less if you don't have Oliver. I wouldn't be doing this. You can get English. He's been great, don't get me wrong. I just can't justify spending this much on him. I need some bad games out of Dawson. Need them badly. All right, so who else in the midfield? Anderson, people might be looking to jump on after what the 189 last week. Has a break even of 9. Has the amazing buy. And of course has West Coast this week. So yeah, I think he's someone that you could pay up for 605k. It's a bit pricey, but definitely an option there. Rory Laird had another poor game, 149 break even. So I think you continue to wait for his price to drop, especially with the injury cloud that you had over him. Okay. I can't see anyone just scrolling through that. Oh, no, here they are. The couple of ones I wanted to talk about. So Andrew Brayshaw, 531k. This is very cheap. Went up 21k this week, which is a massive amount because he had a 149. The comment last week, which has got us peaked in curiosity, is obviously he was carrying a bit of a injury issue. It was a knee, and he said last week was the first time he was pain-free, and then this week kind of came out and backed up his 98 with a 149. Now, the thing was, it was against the Hawks, so he is probably better than his price, and he's definitely better than what he's averaged this year, which is just the 98.4 so far. You would have expected him to be more around the 110 mark, 105 to 110 mark. So he's priced below what I think he can actually do from here. And the low break even. Swans, Cats, Melbourne as the next 3 kind of has me a little bit scared, and then has that first buy, which I think is fine for most people. So yeah, he's one that you could look at. I think Mills is also one that you could look at this year as well. Hold on, let's just check some CBAs while we're here. Hopefully they're all updated. Brayshaw 76%, so it's gone back up after the last couple of weeks. And then we will talk about Mills. I don't know if this will be updated because that game was only today. Oh, no, here we go. It is here. 63%, gone back up. Okay, last 2 weeks. This is good. So it appeared that Mills was playing more on ball, and that is what the stats say too. So Mills is the one I want to talk about next. Obviously been playing down, back and all over the shop, and then Swans haven't been in particularly good form. He's now 523k. He was a top 8 mid last year, down 120k from his starting price. 116 break even, so you could wait another week on him for sure. But yeah, Freo and North in the next 2, as well as Carlton before the bye. I'm somewhat interested in Mills this week as an option, especially given his price tag. And then the other one I wanted to talk about was Warner is the Sydney Swan. Oh, we can talk about Merritt quickly. He looked like he was going to do much better than this score, to be honest, but then Port got on top in the second half. I'm still waiting probably for post this Brisbane game to get on him. And then after that, he's got Richmond, West Coast, and North as the 3 after the Brisbane game. So next week, Zach Merritt is a target for me, and I've got to have that in the back of my mind. How can I pay up to get Merritt? Assuming he goes around, I mean, he could beat that 130. He's got a good track record against the Lions over the last 3, but how do I get 580 for Merritt next week? Oh, I can't even see where he's in this list. Oh, I didn't talk about Setterfield either. So just quickly on Setterfield, because I also had already traded him. 109 break even, had another poor game. Like, just get rid of him. Fine to go. 410k. Yeah, just jump off him. And probably more of a priority trade than Warple, just because of break even. I don't know. That's hard to say. What was his CBAs this week, actually? I need to look at all of Essendon now, because I'm talking about Merritt. Like, it rebounded. Okay, Setterfield had 0. What? That's wild. Shield. String of 55. They're still playing around. This does, like, worry me a little bit with Merritt. Parrish had a good week. What it was like a 116, right? Where's he priced at? Because he should still be cheap for what he can do. Parrish, 567k. He's gone up a bit. He's someone that you could look at again. Wait, what's his break even? 96. He should go up a little bit more. I mean, him and Merritt might be about the same price next week, and you might be picking one of those. Sorry, Setterfield, Merritt. Let's look at Steele, because that's one I did want to look at as well. Break even 75. He lost another 13k this week. 524 is really cheap. This game was weird because he looked like there was one quarter that he cared about, and the other 3 was just nothing. And I don't know if it's because against North or what was going on. I'm actually curious to see his CBA stats as well, because I felt like they went down from the week before. No, he was 81%. No way. This is so strange to me. And Sinclair was up. He played more there in the second half for sure. Ross took a hit. Okay. So yeah, so I think this is the game, by the way, this week is there's lots of cheaper options in the midfield that are all interesting. Mills, Brayshaw, Steele. You've got some in that middle point, kind of Merritt and Anderson, and then you've got still like your Oliver at the top as well. And which of these are the right ones to bring in this week? So that's partly who you have to trade out, what you can afford is what will make these decisions, as well as what fits with your buy structure. Thankfully, I don't think almost any of the ones I talked about are in that last buy. They're all in the buys that I could take more of these players from, which is really handy for me. And then downgrade options. So other ones we can talk about is Mitch Nevitt. Where are you, Nevitt? Is it just N? No, I thought it was KN. Maybe it's just, yeah, it was there. It was. Yeah, okay, there we go. Oh, it's Mitchell, and Mitch doesn't work. So 164K, he played his third game. I think he was sub for this one, and then 46.72. I want to say he won their best and fairest for last year. It was like Geelong Falcons. He won their best and fairest as a midfielder. He's kind of been playing more half forward wing for the Cats. I guess what's interesting is with Dangerfield having that hamstring awareness, if he's out for any period of time, maybe someone like Nevitt benefits off that. He got, a few CBAs, I'm guessing, towards the end of that game when Dangerfield was out. Because on the ball, he's probably quite interesting as an option. Where's Brun? Yeah, like Bose is obviously out. And then Brun, I mean, yeah, he's been in and out of favour. He's been better, though. So yeah, Nevitt, I guess, is one that you could potentially consider. Weddle, we talked about a little bit already. And then Drury was the debutant for North, 102K. I thought he looked really good, to be honest. 51 here, which is not the best score. He still is playing half forward for North, so the role is a bad role on a bad team. But he's basement price, and if he was good early, he faded out a bit in the second half, but I thought he was still trying late and still did some nice things. Surprisingly clean around the ball and at like contests as well, which I really appreciated. Did some nice marking, did some nice tackling. So I'm pretty high on Drury, and I almost think he's good enough. And with his price, you could go early on him as a 1 weeker. If you have to, for money reasons. If you have got other options that you like, or you can wait, then so be it. Break evens. Let's have a quick look what we've got in here. So, yep. So Sincotta. I mean, Atkins is number 2 there. Wagner's out. Dill Williams, this just hurts that didn't jump on him. I think I said he was my favorite option last week as well. Like if you couldn't, if for those that are looking at Sims stuff, I would have rather gone Williams. So yeah, I mean, he's still got a negative 34 break even, made another 43K. I just hurt that he was named sub the week that we wanted to bring him in. Then Nevitt's there. Long didn't play. Hewland, Weddle's there. And Kemp, who I mentioned, who's been all right for that side. Berry had a debut game, but the 57, it actually looks all right. But everyone that watched the game close said he didn't play particularly well. And then Sam Simpson made money for those that went in, 50K, which is all right. Break even of -2. Not bad. Should make some more money. Turner was the late in for Melbourne, but I don't think he holds his spot on that side. And then there's talk that Chesser may come back after being the sub. Sharp debuted, like outside wing type. Scoring I wouldn't expect to be particularly good. Okay. So really, it feels to me like my trading probably goes 2 or 3 ways this week. So option 1 is, and I haven't played around with this, so just bear with me. We're going to have a quick look, is if Marshall's out, we have to go gone. That is like be trade 1 for me for sure. It means I've got 160K left. Oh, come on. Please don't be slow tonight. Don't they know over there at SuperCoach headquarters that I'm recording a video and that it needs to go fast for me? And disgrace. All right, and then it's probably Warple out, as you could guess from how I was talking about, 590K. So that does put out, someone like Noah Anderson even from consideration. Same with Clary. And I'd be looking at the cheaper guys. As of right now, I'm probably preferencing Mills over any of the others. I like that price point. That leaves me 67K for next week, which is pretty good. And I could mean something like a Hollands and another rookie to get Merritt and Drury, for example. All right, so that's kind of path one for me, which see, obviously I don't have the boost. If you got boosts, you've got more options than what I do. All right, second option here. Let's say Marshall's fine. We're hanging on to Marshall. What are we doing? If we're still trading out Warple, I have a feeling I can get to Mills in one trade. I can get to Brayshaw in one trade. So I'm this is benefit of banking money last week. I'm going either Brayshaw Mills or Steele in one trade, which is great. I mean, that's just a handy little upgrade going on right there. Helps the buys too. So that's the third. I guess that's the second option, and then the third option is if I want to downgrade out of someone else, either to get Atkins and play him on field, especially against West Coast, or to go early on someone like a Drury, 102k. So if I went early on Drury and like say I want to get rid of Davey Holland, someone like that, maybe it won't be Hollands just because he's still playing. His job security is good. He could still spike scores, even though I'm a little bit worried about something to lose cash. But maybe I finally want to get rid of a Cowan or a Davey. Let's just see what happens. We're getting a Drury here. Yep, 216k, and that means I can then. Oh, I actually can't. Oh, can't get Oliver because I think if I'm doing this, I do want to get Oliver this week. If I'm like getting rid of 2 trades here to get in Drury early. It wouldn't be Warple this week. It needs to be someone worth 222k. So it couldn't be Cowan, couldn't be Davey. Chandler's too early to go. Ryan's too early to go. Mitchell's too early to go. So it would be Hollands this week. So that's the last trade option if I want to get in Oliver and go early on Drury. That does, of course, risk me not having a downgrade option next week. And so then if I wanted to get up to Merritt, how would I do that? Bit scary. So yeah, I think it might just be Warple out this week for my pick of these ones in the midfield, which I, reserve the right to change my mind on who it is. But it could be Mills. Let's just say it's Mills for now. And then let's set up the team roughly for next week. So assuming Marshall's fine, and this is a bit risky because he plays this late game. And like I don't really want to waste Ryan as an E in the rucks only for Marshall to play and then not be able to get that score. Because I'm not really keen on fielding some of these other rookies. How am I setting this up this week? All right, so Blues play late, so I'm not really going to get to muck around with loopholes for a lot of these guys. Although I can, and Constable gets locked out early as well, which hurts a lot of the flexibility that this team has. All right, so I'm guessing that gets set up like that. Come on, please work. Because I think Chandler's fine field, as we mentioned, the MCG setup. Ryan is still playing Ruck, but I can have that as the loop on Friday night just to make sure that score's okay. And then Sincotta's probably the preferred option over Hollands in the midfield. I obviously can't leave them together. Davey plays 5 minutes before them, so that's not going to be a loop. So I might just have to take it like that. The only other one I can kind of loop is Mitchell, I guess. But that would be like in defense, I guess. And it can't be for Constable. I'm assuming Cowan's not playing this week. So if Mitchell goes well, what happens? Or if Ryan goes well, what happens? Because if Ryan goes well, then like Roberts is coming on and this Mitchell score doesn't really matter anyway. Because he'll just get swapped for Sheasel. No, okay, I don't think this works. I actually can't like loop many of my rookies this week, which is annoying because I think it's part of what's helped me avoid some of these bad scores, just being able to throw the loopholes around pretty well. So yeah, I think this might be the setup then. Vice captain, captain. Let's talk about those quickly. Also, haven't really looked at that. If you did have Noah Anderson, I guess you could look at vice captaining him against West Coast. Wouldn't be touching anyone in this matchup, although if Swans have lost Laddams, no, he was fine for that game in the end. I think he had a concussion test early, but came back on and played okay. Because then, like, you could look at Darcy backing that up. Northport, I guess, like, Rosie or Butters are both ones that probably could go big in this matchup, to be honest. But you've got Horn Francis who might murder his old side, to be honest. Actually, it's probably worth watching just for that. So maybe neither of them go big because it's all Horn Francis. Melbourne against Hawks. So yeah, if you've got Oliver or Petrarca, maybe this is a vice captain or captain game here for this one. Neil has gone historically very big against Essendon, but you know that's all been under games without Brad Scott at the helm. Whether he continues to do that, I don't know. Also, a little bit hard to judge just because Brisbane's game plan has changed, which is less friendly, I think, to some of the midfield scoring. So whether Neil actually pops off or it's Dunkley, who knows? Carlton Dogs, I mean, it's hard to go against Bont or even English given the form they're in. He's at 725k, which is nuts. Like, I could, trade him and Hollands to Niels and Brayshaw or something like that. That's one way to upgrade the team, I guess. Maybe I could downgrade him to Oliver. That's a good way to go, Oliver. Sorry, yeah, lost in that. Yeah, Carlton are hardest midfield to score against, something like that. So maybe it's English over Bont. Yeah, they're just so for Rucks. Adelaide St Kilda. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at Dawson or Laird in this game. If Dawson was playing behind the ball, I mean, that's where St Kilda's giving up points, as we saw with Siebel and Sheasel this week. So he's been playing more of an on-ball, though, so I'm not sure if that's as interesting. And then Collingwood against GWS, a bit hard to trust Dacos over the last couple of weeks. So I don't think you can go there. And I wouldn't touch any of the GWS boys in that matchup. Geelong, would you ever go Stewart against Richmond? I don't know what his history's like against them. 161 last time, but Cat's just uncompetitive now, and I worry in those games that Stewart doesn't have the ceiling. So I'm probably Petrarca into English this week. If I pick up Mills against Freo, I could go Mills, to be honest. Swans need a big win, or like Goulden. I probably don't do that, though. And this is getting locked out early, so it has to be done with Ryan. Okay, well, I think that's me for the week. I think that's trades for the week. I'm down to 18 now if I do that, and that leaves me with, I've got 6 defenders, I've got 4 forwards here, plus Goulden, that makes 5. Got my 2 rucks, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mids. So I'm 1 forward and 2 mids away from completion, 3 mids away from completion, 4 primos with 18 trades. Can do that with probably like 8 left. The obvious problems for me at the moment is no Oliver, no Dawson. They're the 2 that I'm most worried about every given week, and it's really hard because I like watching both of those sides, and it's just pain when you don't own those gun players that are highly owned by the rest of the comp. I mean, the fact that I'm 220 without either is a testament to the fact that you don't have to have all the highest played guys if you're doing other things right with captains and rookies, but yeah, that hurts. How am I getting in? What are my trades next week? We've got Holland still at around 290 and Hoppers around 460. 290 and 460 is what, 750. So that minus Drury plus my 10k in the bank, I might have enough for Clary. Cutting it fine. I mean, it could be like Chandler though, that gets moved on next week. I am at the point though where even though I'm upgrading through Hopper and Warple, I'm not moving rookies off, so I'm still playing 3 rookies each week, and I do want to get that down to 2 or 1 kind of pretty quickly. Chandler's alright. Like Chandler, Ryan, and Sincotta are all okay. But like inevitably they'll drop bad scores. Like they just will. They're rookies. It happens. I mean, yeah. Okay, well, I think that's everything for the week. I've talked at least quickly like about the downgrade options, the types of players I'm looking at this week. The philosophy hasn't really changed. You're just trying to upgrade, find value, get points on field, get rookies off. But we're starting to increasingly consider, how does this affect my buys doing these trades? Will I be set up with a good structure? As you can kind of tell, I've back ended quite heavily. So if I don't have players like Dawson and Oliver or Laird coming into this last buy, then I could trade out of like Kelly or Green or whoever if I need to go that way. Or even like Sheezel or Zeeble could have come out at that point. But yeah, let me know how you did this week. Hopefully you've done well as well. Oh, actually, last thing I wanted to talk about quickly, just shout out. So leagues, I think we're still like running table. So 6, 8, 10, 12, 18, 20, all the ones that I've entered, we're all like crushing it on all of those, which is good. But overall, the weekly this week was one. Dependable by like I think he's short is D1, which was a terrible prediction, but he's from the Discord, so he's overall 66 now, and he got the weekly win. So shout out to you. Your team looks pretty nice. How you did it with Sard is amazing. Had a couple of poor rookie scores too. What went so well? You had most of the other big scores, didn't you? Simpson, Cotter, yeah, nice. Good week. Congrats. Oh yeah, both Petrarca and Oliver, very good. Yeah, didn't have Warple, that helps. Anyway, congrats to you. And then I think looking at overall rankings, we've got Locke, who's in the top 10 now. Henry, who is like top 2 or 3 in the Hall of Fame, but he's 35. We just looked at someone who's 66, old Shorty. I know there's other people from the Discord in here as well, but I just don't know exactly where the ranks are. But yeah, they're all doing well. So, Bexco, yeah, Bex, Zach, yeah. Yeah, there's lots of guys in here that are doing really well. So, shout out to all of them. Good to see the core doing well. Good to see leagues doing well, and wishing all the best. If you've got any questions, players you'd like to discuss, or you were hoping that I'd cover that I didn't, please let me know and I'll answer in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.